In this video, guys, I'm going to show you how to install your drywall instead of horizontal, vertical. And no, it's not as easy as you might think. I'm Jeff from Home Renovision. I've been on YouTube making drywall and paint videos now for about 6 years. And over those 6 years, I've got a ton of comments from people wanting to know the same thing about drywall. If I install it vertical and I can eliminate the need for a butt joint, which is the short factory edges when they meet up on a long wall, isn't that going to be a good thing? Because as a homeowner, I'm not very good at taping. I can't feather out the joint. It takes a lot of skill to develop that. And these tapered joints are so easy to fill, and it doesn't require a lot of skill. So the first question is, if I go vertical, does that make my life easier? Let me show you. Here's a vertical installation. Now when you go vertical, you want to go to the middle of a stud, and then what you're left with, inevitably when you're working with wood, is the framing is never perfect enough to hang drywall like this. Wood warps, it bends, your measuring is off, your nailing is off, you stick a wall in it, you twist the frame to make it work in your basement, and then you don't have a screw surface. And so the problem with doing this is basically the wall isn't designed to handle the vertical drywall. Now if you're building out of steel, you can make everything perfect, because you can build the wall and then adjust all of your studs as you go. But when you're working with wood, you can't do that. Remember, a lot of people are doing this in their basement, which means they've got wood, they've got insulation, they've got vapor barrier, and they can't be whacking around moving studs at their own leisure to make sure that this all fits. Now there is an easier way, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. The secret to going vertical with your drywall is to go horizontal with your framing. Just like a ceiling. If you add strapping to the floor joists, then you can run your drywall along the long side of the ceiling. Same thing here. We just need to add one more layer of wood here horizontally so that when we go vertical, we've always got a positive contact. We aren't going to run the risk of the walls cracking up later. This can be handy if you want to save yourself doing butt joints on long walls, but it does create a lot of extra work. And I'll show you why. So you've really got two choices when you're going to go strapping in your basement. One, you can go to the store and you can buy 1x3 lumber that's 8 feet long or 12 feet long. Inevitably, they all have the same problem. They're warped and twisted. And so trying to get a good finish is difficult. But if you just go grab a 1/2-inch sheet of plywood, you can cut your own strapping and it's always perfect. Just line up your saw, put the top of the saw guide on where the top of the plywood is, and you can just kind of eyeball, run off 1.5-inch strips. Doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Here we go. You're gonna need 5 pieces for every 8-foot section of wall. The idea here, guys, you just want to screw the strapping to the frame. Grab yourself a flooring screw and it'll hold nice and tight. You don't need a laser level, you don't need to be too picky. Just space them out, one through the middle, and then every couple of feet in both directions. One of the reasons I like to use the plywood instead of the strapping is because that strapping that they have at the lumberyard is usually from very small trees and it really cracks easy. But if you use plywood, even if you put a screw in the corner, on all the surface peeled, the other layers go in the other direction and it's not split. That still has great bond. When you're using your foot pedal, use it to raise the board off the ground. Again, we don't want drywall touching concrete. Put a screw in one side. Now, you want to play with your drywall until you're all nice and square on that laser line. Once you're nice and straight on that line, then the rest of the installation goes really easy. Remember, the goal of wanting to install vertical drywall is in a lot of basements, you can't get 12-foot sheets of drywall downstairs. Unless the builder put in a window wide enough to bring the drywall through, most flights of stairs, you can't bring a 12-foot sheet down because the staircase and the ceiling is too aggressive, and when you bring the sheet down, you can't start picking it up at the other end, okay? And it bunches in, so you're really stuck with 8-foot sheets, maybe 10 depending on your height and your ceiling. So this is really good. If you have a 20-foot basement wall, you can go vertical on that 20-foot basement wall to eliminate all the butt joints. That's the only solution you're getting here. It's making your taping easier as far as skill level is concerned. You are, however, increasing the amount of taping you're gonna do. I know a lot of people think that this makes less work. It does if you eliminate the butt joints, but it creates a whole lot of extra labor. Now, keeping square is important because no matter what you do and how perfect your work is, you're going to be working with somebody else's foundation, somebody else's walls, somebody else's mistakes, okay? So here, for instance, now that my wall is in nice and laser level, I'm 30 inches to the wall, and up here, I'm 29 5/8. This is why if you start in the middle of the wall, no more than 4 feet off the corner, okay? Always start at least a couple inches from the edge. Once you get this in square, then you can measure from your square line back to the wall, top, middle, and bottom, and you can cut the drywall to fit perfectly. And that'll help eliminate a lot of the extra work with filling gaps. The only thing left to do now is screw all this on, and then I'll talk about the taping process. Okay, so let's just show you how to finish this off. We take a measurement at the bottom, and the middle, and the top, all right? Now, depending on how much extra work you want to do, because we have horizontal strapping, you can just take the smallest measurement if it's close. Our wall here actually starts out at 29 3/4, and then it goes like this. It bows in to 29 1/4, and it bows back out to 29 5/8. If I cut everything at 29 1/4 to fit, we're gonna have some pretty substantial gaps. So it all depends on how exact you wanna be. For me, I just cut it straight. Make my life simple. And then I'll just throw a little bit of expansion foam in the corner and then trim it off later. And then my gap is filled. And if you haven't seen that trick, click the link in the video, down in the video description. Check that out, it's a great hack. Now, so I'm gonna go with 29 1/4. And that's my number right here. Now there's 2 ways to cut drywall as a homeowner. So the first cutting technique is to go out and buy one of these. These drywall squares cost about 20 bucks. As a homeowner doing your own renovations, this is a great tool because basically you can hold the top and slide it, and you can set the knife at the right height, 29 3/4, okay? And you can just run across the board cutting at the same time. I'll just demonstrate with a pencil because I don't want to have to cut this more than once. And you just hold it like this, and you can just score the paper, all right? Once you've scored the paper, you can snap it. The other way you can cut your drywall, this is really simple. You just hold your blade down near the end, and you grab your thumb on the edge, and you add the knife to it, okay? You put a mark on the wall, and then you just use your finger here like a brake, okay? And you can press the tape right against it, and you can just go like this. Now the problem is, now I'm up against the wall, right? So now I gotta get a little awkward. Here we go. It's really hard. This works really good if you're doing the vertical cuts, not so good with the horizontal ones. I've had people comment all the time on the videos, you know, you should just use a tape measure, it's so much easier. Trying to go horizontal with the tape measure in this cut is next to impossible. Doing the vertical works really well, but this is obviously easier. Well, for anybody who's paying attention, I used the wrong measurement to cut the drywall. So I had to fix it, right? You know, here on this channel, I believe in measure once, cut twice. So when you make a mistake, just fix it. The good news is it's an easy fix. So we're gonna show you how. But first of all, let's just get this drywall pedal here. Let's get this nice and tight. The secret here is all about the drywall joint. This has to be tight. It doesn't matter about the gap on the against the wall, okay, honestly. It's such an easy fix. But these joints here, you want it nice and tight. All right. Here we go. By the way, quick secret. If you're adding on and you want to know where your strapping is, just mark the wall. And if it's insulation and plastic, get yourself a black marker. Just draw that line on the plastic, okay? It'll make your life easier, knowing where all of your framing is in advance. As for a corner like this, when you make this mistake, and you will, don't worry about it. Just screw it in nice and tight and use this expansion foam to fill the gap. And if you haven't seen that video or you're not familiar with this trick, it works amazing every time. check out that video. We'll put a link in the description for you. It's all my drywall tips and tricks and hacks. It's a great video to help you get out of every mess you're gonna get into. So now you can see that if you were to hang the drywall vertical on a really long wall, you eliminate the butt joints. It's a little extra work for setting it up. The drywall taping knife that I use is incredibly straight. It's not a curved trowel. But this is how we use a trowel, okay? Open faced, and I can apply mud coming up, or I can rotate it in my hand, okay? And I can, but I can't reach the ceiling, okay? Now, as vertical drywall goes, an 8-foot wall, I now have got 16 feet of tape joint. Now if I do that all the way down in the whole basement, you're gonna do a lot more taping. You're also gonna do this. You're gonna be doing a lot of taping from the ground, and then you're gonna have to get on a ladder to get on a ladder to the top, and then the middle, okay? It's a lot of extra work for taping and sanding because you're gonna have ripples of leftover mud. If you just go horizontal, right to the end of the room, all right? That's why I like going horizontal. But I understand the desire to get rid of a butt joint. The secret to success in drywall is learn the skills that you need to do it properly so you don't have to do a cheat like this. Now, when it comes to butt joints, if you learn how to do it professionally, you can do this and you can use my tools and get a great result. It's not that tricky. You can check the video right over here. Did this one a few years ago showing how to do this. You're gonna love it. We'll see you in another video soon. Cheers.